No matter where you go, no matter what you do, take that Maui style with you. Cause if you ain't Maui styling, you just living on an island. Maui styling, don't let me down. 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 There is sunshine in your heart. It's been with you from the start. Lift your head, look to the heavens, then you will feel brand new again. Don't stop me now, Maui styling, don't let me down. 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 Reach out your hand and help each other. Your mother, your father, your sister and brother. There is love in this family. Pick yourself up and get on your feet. Don't stop me now, Maui styling, don't let me down. 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 Makena styling, upcountry styling, Campo styling, Kahana Valley styling, Hana styling, Waihu styling, Bahia styling, Keanai styling. Maui styling, don't let me down. 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 Maui styling, Maui styling, don't stop me now. Maui styling.
Aloha!
Aloha!
You know me, I'm Jason Schwartz, and we're up close and personal this year with political candidates here in Maui County. And we have a great candidate today. I'm a little biased. This is Lucienne de Nair. Lucienne, you are running for the
East Maui County Council seat, but everyone can vote for
The
all the
next
council
words
seats.
out of my mouth. No matter where you live, whether you're on Molokai, Lanai, or anywhere in Maui, you can vote for Lucienne if you want to, because we elect all 9 candidates. So don't forget that.
I'm really glad you're explaining that to people, because that's one of the most common questions I get. Oh, Lucy, I'd love to vote for you, but I live in Pukalani. Well, no problem.
Good for you.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing that you'll see flashing across the screen, because it is uncanny how many races we've seen, people still don't understand that. The fact is, you have 9 representatives to the council, not
That's right.
one. They all have residency seats, but they all represent you. So when you see someone like Lucienne and you say, God, I'd like to be able to talk to her. I wish she was my representative.
I could
She
be.
is your representative. That's right. Anyway, I think that we should start by letting them know, and I think you should know very clearly, I'm prejudiced. I'm very prejudiced because it was, oh my goodness, 15 years ago that I met Lucienne, and when I met you, I thought, boy, this lady is sharp. You have always been someone that has been on top of issues and seemed to really look at things in such a clear way and lay them out so clearly, and you're always helpful in organizing things. I'm so glad to see that you're running for council again.
Thank you. I think you were one of the people that a long time ago said, why aren't you running for council? And at that time, you know, I felt that there were many things that I could accomplish, being a citizen activist, being a volunteer, serving on different boards and committees and commissions, and those were all good things. And they have prepared me for being a good representative as an elected representative. So I guess we all come to a point in our life where certain things coalesce, and I've come to this point in my life. I feel that the times are really crying out for people that have a proven ability to lead in their communities. They're crying out for people that have ideas, that are willing to think outside the box, that have already accomplished things. And you know, not to brag about myself, but I am one of these people. I worked very quietly, but many things are better here in Maui because of people like myself and like many other unsung community volunteers. And now some of us are deciding we're going to run for public office. We're going to come step more into the limelight, tell you a little bit about who we are, what we care about, and hopefully you, the public, will go, gosh, I don't really recognize that funny name, Denaie. Boy, that's a funny name. I haven't heard it before, but I like what this lady has to say. I'm going to give that Lucy a chance. So that's one of the reasons I really appreciate this opportunity to be on the public airwaves and talking to more people, because I care. I really care. And as you say, Jason, I've been out there showing I care.
As long, and you have a real ability to keep people in balance. I mean, there are a lot of personalities, council and no council. I've seen meetings where you've been at them, and your steadiness and bringing things back to the issue and putting things out has created like a bonding where you take dissimilar people and get them all to look at things and agreements can be reached. That is an extraordinary talent, and I think it would be a tremendous plus there on council. Now, I could go on and on like this, but I think we should let them hear what you think about different issues. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to toss a coin and start with a subject, and you can take it anywhere you want.
Great, and,
right?
and I appreciate your kind words. I have to say, I'm a little uncomfortable about telling people how good I am, because my whole interest has been in working quietly and getting things done, and who cares who gets the credit. The most important thing is to get things done.
That's the reason that I'm mentioning it,
so
because
I
you have
appreciate
worked tirelessly,
you bringing that up.
And your humility, you know, is a great strength. But I guess when we're coming here for an election,
I know. Then
people need to know just how
yourself.
valuable you have been to our community already.
Well, my key word in this campaign is proven leadership for change. And the proven part is that I've worked as a leader in the community with many different organizations. I've been to hundreds of council meetings. I've been to many meetings of boards and commissions. I'm serving on the General Plan Advisory Committee now, which is 25 people trying to work together, harmonize their particular passions and ideas into one vision for our future for Maui County. And I see myself as a bridge, just like you described. I see myself as a person that can listen to all sides, but I definitely really strongly stand for things. But to stand for things doesn't mean you can't listen to other people. In fact, it's helpful if you have strong feelings about things to listen to others, because they may have part of the secret you're missing to solve the, you know, we can't have this and we can't have that, but maybe we could have a third thing that doesn't yet exist. So that's one of the reasons that I am running, is that I feel those bridges are so important, especially this time. I mean, we're kind of like at the end of one era and looking a new era in the face, and we don't exactly know what it is. So we need people that can just jump from wave to wave and bring everybody else along with them and make them feel like there's somebody that is, you know, on everybody's side, but still moving forward.
What would I say if I was going to say, what is the passionate issue you'd like to start with, that you'd say, I really want to address this in this first term?
Well, people know me for my work on water issues, and I'm one of those quiet citizens that went up to the big corporations and working with a whole coalition of people. It's never in my name, and I wouldn't want it to be, because it's not about me, but it's in the name of communities and groups of people that really deserve access to our waters, asking for that access. I feel that our economy is going to be the issue on everybody's mind, and our economy means how can we make a living here on this beautiful island where we live? And a big part of that is having a fair distribution of water, whether we want to build houses our people can afford, whether we want to have farms that provide these specialty crops that could actually give people a living that is above just being, you know, a common laborer or a gardener. But there are many opportunities for us if we had access to the water resources to grow taro. Many of our families want to do this, and taro is a commodity that brings a great price, and it's also a chance for our communities actually to go back to their roots. We also have opportunities to grow specialty crops that could be used for medicinal purposes. We are one of the most incredible growing climates in the whole world, and yet because we have these artificial separations of how water that flows in the stream goes back into our communities and can be used by our communities, we have like kind of barriers. So the people have hopes and dreams of they and their families carrying on a family tradition of agriculture, and they don't have the means to do it. So water, the other side of water is wise use of water, and getting water efficiency just being a built-in part of how we do things here. Getting our wastewater being seen differently as a valuable resource, and having it reused. And that helps cut down the water bills for people like condo associations and people like, you know, our parks department. So we have a lot of different ways of connecting things better, of making more efficient use of water, making more efficient use of energy. And frankly, I think this is going to be the basis of a part of our new economy. It's like, it's a shift, not just sort of in infrastructure, but a shift in ideas and how we look at things and then how we do things. And I think if we look at history, we can see this is true. 30 years ago, how many of us would have thought that there would be all these careers in different computer-related things? I mean, we thought computers belonged in universities and big rooms. That when I was in school, you know, in college 40 years ago, you went to this big room and it was full of this machine and you put a little punch card in. No one knew what a boon to our economy and how many different jobs and opportunities would come out of the fact that computers would become very small things that everybody could use, and that they would free up a whole different way of looking at so many different things, from real estate to retail sales. And yet now that is with us. So we also have a lot of opportunity in small business, and that's
it
something that's
also
near and
frees
dear to
us
my
from
heart.
the people here on Maui can use some of these resources to develop markets that may not physically be here.
Yes.
And we can lighten the streets, and people don't have to travel as much,
Yes,
and
yes,
all that goes
yes.
with all that.
Yeah, it's a combination. I mean, we want to keep our little towns, and we want to keep them having you know, really real business districts and places where there is a main street, where there is this feeling of a there. So we're not living in some virtual suburb that exists, you know, in a real estate magazine, but doesn't really exist in people's hearts. And you know what I mean. You know, you've seen these beautiful ads of come away to this paradise place, but some of these places have no community. So to me, community comes first, wise use of our resources, support for the little people, support for the folks that are really the backbone of our economy, the people that are running their small shops, the people who are working from their home businesses, people who are keeping things going, the unsung heroes of our community. I'm the first to say it is hard to have a small business here. There are rules and regulations that haven't been revised in a long time. I'm sure they're all very well-meaning, but I think one thing the council could do is just set up a small task force that recommends a streamlining of the codes that apply to small business, and have small business members involved so that you can get their input. You know, here's what was a nightmare for me, and then you look at the code and say, gee, you know, there are some other models of doing this and achieving the same result. I bet that we could look at reforming this language and just make it less burdensome. There is always a way to improve things, and that is one of the reasons that I feel that people deserve a choice when it comes to your county council. Yes, you have the old familiar names. You have people that you feel like, I know them from the Rotary Club or the Lions Club or from the school board or from wherever you may know this person, and they're a trusted person. And that's great, but you have to ask the second question. What is this person doing for you?
And do they have enough, I want to say, aptitude to be on council, to be able to deal with these issues that have so many facets? You know, just because they're a good old boy or really somebody that you know doesn't make them qualified for the job. And many of the people, again, where specifically you can pick them out, are on council, but really are there because they have the right heart for it, but don't have the talents to really get the thing moving forward.
Well, you know, one thing I've learned from being a volunteer coordinator for about the last 35 years is everyone has a talent, a God-given gift for a variety of things. The secret is to have people do the things that they have the real talent for, and not to assign them things that are really going to be a bad fit for the skills and talents they have. Mm-hmm. And I think everyone who runs for office is motivated by the highest interest to serve, to make it better for their community, and those are my motivations. I wouldn't run because of some personal sort of thing. I don't have a personal agenda. I have a great life. I love my life. I love living on my little farm in Hoelo. I have wonderful friends. I've had a rich career. I love the research and writing that I do. This is what I do for a living. I research and write, and it's just, I love the volunteer work I do to try to serve on different boards and commissions that help plan Maui's future and help serve some of the, you know, needs in our community to, you know, help our kids and help our seniors and all the good stuff. But I feel I actually have abilities that would be useful on the council. And I guess everybody feels this way, but it's up to the voters to say, well, this person's abilities, yeah, I can see that they've actually gotten something done. I'll tell you a little story.
Please.
I got just carried away about 15 years ago by this beautiful place called Waihe'e. It was the old dairy site down in Waihe'e town. And it's one of the most peaceful and spiritual places you'd ever want to experience. And I went there with some friends. They were fishing there, and I went along, and I went, wow, what a great place. Is this a park or something? And they said, oh, no, it's owned by a Japanese corporation. And a bunch of people, you know, fought to get it developed or not get it developed, and now it's just in limbo. So when I started getting involved in citizen sort of things, I talked to Mayor Lingle at that time. This dates me. This is back in the 90s. And
I'm not old too.
She said that oh, Waihe'e, yes, we want to make this a park. It's such a beautiful place for a park, and we're going to work towards that. And there was articles in the newspaper, and I tried to lead a Sierra Club hike there, but I found I couldn't get permission to go there because the company was in Japan, and it was hard to get a hold of their representative. And I just thought, gee, you know, that's so sad. Here's this place, and you could go along the shoreline and walk along the rocky shoreline, but you really couldn't go anyplace else. So when Mayor Apana was elected, I got together with a group of people, and we decided that we really needed a third way to create like parks and open spaces, and we formed a coastal land trust. And we met with Mayor Apana and said, you know, Mayor, there's this great place. Oh yes, I love Waihe'e, and you know, it's really a wonderful place, and I went fishing there as a kid, and I want to save it too. So we worked with Mayor Apana, and we had the land trust, and we helped identify sources of money that would be available to purchase it. And through having the administration and a citizen group working together, that dream that never happened under the previous administration happened. Not because Linda Lingle was a bad mayor, she was a great mayor, but there wasn't that second hand out there giving the assistance to government. Well, I as a citizen helped create that opportunity that could have existed. It could have existed 20 years ago, but it just, no one had done it. Mm-hmm. 5 individuals got together, brought in 10, 15, 20 other individuals. Former Mayor Arakawa was involved. A lot of great people in this community, and because that organization was formed, it has allowed now thousands of acres to be preserved. That the funding was there for, the owners were willing to even donate easements to preserve land, but there was no vehicle, there was no way. And this is I tell you the story because this is what I hope to bring to the council, is to create the new vehicles. It's not like one person's right and one person's wrong. It's like there's new things we have to try. And,
Like I
and
say,
you need the ideas.
Without question, you are, in my opinion, the person to do it. I've seen, like I say, I've seen you do this. You are a proven track record kind of lady, and besides being a friend, you are capable. I've been, I would say, bugging you for a long time, and I'm so glad that you've decided that you want to do this, because I think our voters are now they're at a point where, you know, like you say, we're changing eras here. We can see we need very capable people to be able to help us through these mucky waters, and the changes that are happening need people that are listening openly and responsibly and don't hold a fixed position and block everyone's testimony to the contrary. I've always felt that. You're very receptive and open.
Thank you.
Which is great.
Thank you. And on the other hand, it's important to have a candidate that actually stands for something. Because listening to people and hearing the best ideas is one important part. The other is to have information and the values and the purpose. And I call myself an independent candidate. I have not been offered large campaign contributions from any entrenched interests in the community. And I'd like to keep it that way. I think that we need a new era in politics where people can be candidates and not obliged to a lot of different segments of the community who may all have good agendas, but they shouldn't be the only agenda. And it's an era that's been here for a long time where you get elected by, you know, being close to various kingmakers, you know, various key people in the community or various power groups or various corporate entities, and I'd really like to see that change. I'd like to have an open door policy, listen to everybody, but be beholden to nobody. And I think that that's where you get your most effective legislation, is if a person can truly independently evaluate. And it's tough. I have friends who are going, oh, but then you're going to do this for me, right? I have to say, God bless you. You are my friend. I care about you. But no, I have to tell you the same thing I would some big corporation.
Unless what they want is somehow in line with what's right and good for the community.
Yes.
I mean, that's not to say you're not going to do these things. It's that you're looking at what's best for the community.
But it's not based on who you know
Right.
or who has given you a contribution. It is more based on holding in your heart what is really going to be best for everybody concerned. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that means looking way into the future. I mean, with water issues, you can make the argument, and it's been made, that, gee, you know, we have a sugar plantation that needs all the water it can get. It's giving people jobs. You don't want to put those people out of jobs, and I don't. But I've hiked their ditch system, and I know how much water is being wasted. So why can't we find a way to more efficiently share the water that's there? Why shouldn't that discussion be on the table? The problem isn't that we don't have enough water. A lot of the time we have more than enough water. The problem is we don't have a way to share that water and to store that water when we have extra, where we all could have enough. We need the new systems to make sure we all have enough, not just the pointing fingers at one another and say you're bad and you're bad. So
have there been any has anyone been looking at catchment as in any way effective on the wet side there?
Well,
I wonder why I don't see any incentives toward that.
That is one of the things that I would very specifically like to see entered into our code. I would hope if I was elected to the council that I could serve on the Water Resources Committee, perhaps even chair it if people felt that I was qualified with my long years of research in water issues. It is a no-brainer that we should give incentives to people in rainy areas to have catchment systems. It's like the areas that use the least water are the rainiest areas, like Haiku and Olinda. Mm-hmm. They use an average of about 400 gallons a day per hookup, whereas over on the west side and the south side it's closer to 1,200 gallons a day. Well, but when the droughts hit, who's asked to cut back on water is the folks in Makawao and Haiku and
Isn't that
Olinda.
crazy?
Yeah. Now, if they had their own catchment systems, they could use the catchment water during the drought time and not lose their gardens, not have to be, you know, at the mercy of anything. Where we live in Hoelo, many people have catchment systems. And for most of the time, they are reliable. In extreme drought, we do have to have water tanked in or share water among those who have wells and those who have catchment systems. But there are whole countries like Australia where people build and there are no public water systems. People use catchment. In the old days in McKenna, everyone had a cistern. In the old days in even Makawao, people had cisterns.
And the thing about
sometimes the past is the future. You know?
I was going to say, sometimes the old days, you know, the good old ways are a great way to me that just says decentralization, not relying on a central, whether it's power or water. What great
Services.
Power to our community to have things decentralized, have less burden on that central system.
And
so
incentives are the way to go. Incentives for people to make their own power. Incentives for people to have the security of their own water supply, as well as access to the public water supply. And I don't believe our public system should be abandoned at all. In fact, I think that they should be well supported. But to have redundancy is always wise, especially when you're looking at changes in climate. We don't really know what our weather is going to be like. We don't know what our rainfall levels are going to be like. Why not be wise stewards and give ourselves 2 or 3 chances to have the resources that we need? So catchment is just kind of a no-brainer. Also moving more towards a regional model of farming support. I would love to see regional farming support centers with each one have its own certified kitchen so people can make products there. You have a lot of star fruit, make them into juice. But you can't sell it commercially unless it comes from a kitchen that meets all the health department standards. How many people have these? Well, our cafeterias at our schools do, but I have friends in Hana that are driving here into Wailuku to use a certified kitchen at Lokahi Pacific because the nearest one to them is in Kipahulu, which it's a long drive backwards. There is a certified kitchen in Kipahulu that the community put together, and it's enabled folks to live in Kipahulu and actually produce products that can then be legally consumed. But you know, when you have the East Maui Taro Festival, everybody wants to make their lau, their chowder, this and that, and they're all scrabbling to find a kitchen where they can legally produce food to sell to the public.
wow.
So you're supporting small business by doing that. And I know people up country too. You know, often you have an abundance of something and you could make it into chutney. You could make it into something that has value added. You could take your honey and make it into a variety of products. You could do baked goods, but you need to have that commercial kitchen that's legal for the health department, and it's too expensive for each individual to do. So you really boost a lot of small businesses just by having regional access. So I'm going to a community block grant meeting later after I'm pal with you to see if there might be funding for some of these kitchens in the community block process, and then can work with some communities that, you know, may need them, and maybe not this year, but in the next year's process, have the funding and start getting this built.
Can I bring up just a few different things?
Yeah.
Transportation.
Yeah.
Any things about transportation corridors, or do you have any ideas about what to do to encourage people to use or mass transportation, or are we going to get set for the future to do things about that?
Well, the buses have really made a big step forward, and it's kind of neat. About, 9-10 years ago, I participated in a survey at the county fair about public attitudes about things like alternatives to transportation, alternatives to energy generation, water issues, a variety of things. And we gave people about 5 choices about transportation, like, you know, what do you think would help most for your transportation needs? And the majority of people said an approved bus system. And we talked to a lot of folks in central Maui because it was the county fair, a lot of folks coming through, especially younger people. Many students participated. We surveyed 1,000 people, so this was a pretty good sampling. And we broke down the demographics. We asked each person to write just their name and their hometown so that we would know, that they were a real person and where they lived. But the thing that came up again and again is that young people and old people really need bus service because their ability to use regular, your own private car is limited. And then in between, there were people who needed bus service just because of the cost of maintaining a car and the cost of gas. So that is a no-brainer. The bus system has expanded. The best model I've ever seen was Kauai after the Hurricane Iniki.
What's that?
They put all the little vans that were normally used to pick up people at the airport, because no one was flying in, so all the car rental vans, the hotel vans, became their bus system. Joanne Yukamura, who was mayor at that time, and I had a neighbor who went over there to work as a carpenter, and when he came back home, everyone said, well, gosh, how is it over there? Is it chaotic? He said, it is great. He says, I can take my toolbox and hop on one of these little vans. They drive to all the different neighborhoods and pick up people and go and work on someone's roof and then get picked up at the end of the day. He said, it's a terrific system. And that system actually was kept in place for a number of years, even after Reconstruction began, because it was so convenient and it was free. It cost nothing. It was subsidized by the county. Of course, the county had FEMA money to do that at that time, and that's a consideration. But I think if we could move towards a transport system that involves some smaller vehicles, perhaps ones that were either electric or used alternative type fuel so that they were cheaper to run, and we didn't have to pay the almost $5 a gallon diesel or gasoline price, that might be a real good way to go. It would be great to have like a model program of electric vehicles that held like 15 people that could be recharged through like solar or wind power, and that they zoomed around every day in the busiest neighborhoods. And we'd have to kind of like have people like, call in on a website about what neighborhoods most wanted the service. There'd have to be a needs assessment done, because you can't just start and say, well, just send them out and see if anyone shows up. You need to be logical about it. But, government has so many opportunities to do small things through pilot projects and then expand the ones that it works. And this is true of energy, transportation, but I also do believe in looking broad range and setting aside transportation corridors. But short term, I would love to see an expanded fleet of small van type service that goes. Now MEO has somewhat of this that deals with folks that are going to medical appointments.
Right.
So we already have a bit of a model we can learn. MEO really has led the way on so many good ideas in this county. So if I were elected, I would sit and have lunch with Sandy Boz and say, tell me all you know about these issues. And of course, having Gladys on the council, I think would be helpful too, because she has that experience from MEO about how they ran their different programs and the pitfalls, the do's and the don'ts. But there are good ways to give people more options on how to get from A to B that are convenient. If you don't make it convenient, it's like people will have to take their own car. Like, it's not convenient for me from Puelo to ever get into town. There's one bus a day that leaves from Haiku Community Center and then comes back.
Yeah.
Not too convenient. I'd have to plan my whole life around that. But if there were little things that zipped around and I just had a couple errands in town, I would take them. And I think we need to look long range as we have an aging population, and all the demographics show us that we're going to have people who already live here getting older, like myself, and people coming back to take care of their aged parents who have been living on the mainland but are going to come here and retire and take care of their aged parents, and people retiring here who have reached the flower of their years and are going to be wanting to live in a beautiful place. And you put that all together and you have a very nice chunk of population that could be served by a reliable alternative system. We also need to do the long-range corridors, because just the distance between the airport and the hub of Kahului and Wailuku and many of our employment centers in West Maui and South Maui, it's just a no-brainer that it would be nice to have something that just went regularly back and forth.
Yeah.
You know, whether we have as many tourists as we had in the past or a different kind of visitor. I mean, we don't really know. Right now, visitors fly in. We have people come because they're going to spend their, you know, honeymoon or their week in paradise. We may shift in the future to people who come here as more long-range visitors, people who come here for health and healing and are going to spend 2 or 3 months. So the higher airfares are worth it to them because they're going to be here for a while. Or who are going to come here because we have great institutions of learning, which is one of my dreams, where we would have a terrific marine research center here. We'd have film schools and places where people could come from all over the world, like they have the East-West Center in Honolulu, to see how different cultures do different things and learn from it. And we would take our place as a center of knowledge in the whole Pacific Rim. Then when people came, they wouldn't just be in and out for a week. They may come on boats instead of planes. They may come in other means that we don't have yet of transportation because we're just cracking the egg of what the possibilities would be of a non-fossil fuel future. But we need to prepare for that future.
You sound like me so much. I guess that's what it is. You know, we're reading out of the same hymn book.
Yes. Well, I think it's important to look far into the future and yet take the practical steps day by day. And I think we are like that way, that both are really necessary. To just take the steps day by day and deal with what's coming at you, well, that's important. But you still need to keep that view and be working incrementally towards those longer range visions and keep them in mind when you're making your short-term decisions. Don't close out those other possibilities because, you know, don't burn all your trees because you don't have any way to cook dinner, and then later on you'll want the fruit off of them, you know?
Right. Well, we've heard lots of stories about things here like that. But we're changing it. It's nice to know. I mean, some people may know that you've been involved with the Sierra Club in Maui tomorrow and a lot of very progressive groups. I remember when I was running myself and I was green, people got to know over time that it was progressive, it wasn't radical. It was like bringing the future here now, to look at the future now so that you can comfortably go there. I'm going to bring up a subject that I think I want to bring up. Let's see how it sits with you. Affordable housing.
Yeah.
That's another one of those long and short term. Any ideas there?
It is. Well, we have an affordable housing ordinance. We don't have a lot of oversight about how it's working. It has some good intentions, but there's some tricky parts. A lot of it is left to kind of the chance and the market. Like, for instance, we are requiring builders to offer a certain percentage of houses as affordable. We do not know if those are being offered on an inside deal to the friends of the developer. We don't know if they're being offered in a fair system to everybody who really wants it. We've heard stories at County Council, when I've been there to testify, of folks who've been in line for various affordable housing projects and were told that they didn't qualify, and then found out that someone else they knew who had a lower income than them was able to qualify, and just felt that there was something funny about that. We've had folks who were told that they had a very limited time to qualify, and when they, you know, rushed to get all their things together, they were then told, oh no, you were too late, you missed the deadline, whereas other people who applied later were given housing. There's a lot of stories out there. Now, I don't like to go just on anecdotal evidence, but I have a friend who is an appraiser, and he has passed on a number of these stories to me. He's a very ethical person. They came from local families. So my thought is, right now we don't have a system where there's a guaranteed fair way that people will become eligible for the affordable housing. And affordable housing has several components, as you know, because you've been in the mortgage industry. It has the availability of something that is a price range that people can afford, and it has the ability of the people that want this housing to actually make the payments And sometimes this is tutoring in financial literacy so that they understand how they could shift their budgeting habits so that they actually could be landowners and homeowners. Sometimes it's more of cleaning up past mistakes and getting it so that they now have a good employment record, but they didn't before. And sometimes it's just allowing people to realize that there's programs that could benefit them that they're not aware of out there. In fact, there are a number of like first-time programs through Native Hawaiian organizations, and I believe even also underserved minorities like the Filipino community and maybe some other groups here are eligible for help through institutions that have been set up, and yet people may not be aware. So it's putting all these things together and then having a fair system. It has been suggested by some, and it's something that I'd really like to look into, is having a master list that everyone's just on, and it's online. So it's not like one developer keeps their list and another developer keeps their list, but it's a transparent process. And if you're on that list and housing becomes available and you're qualified for it, you know, those 10 people go off the list and they get their houses, and the next 10 people rise up in priority. They're also, in the past, you know, talk about the past and the future. In the past, what we used to do is mom and dad, you know, had a piece of property and they built little houses nearby. We need to make it a little bit easier for real family subdivisions. We have many families, especially up country and in my district, in the East Maui district, where there's family land, but it is like so complicated for a family to go through the process to subdivide their 10 acres into 5 lots for, you know, son and daughter-in-law. And that's the low-hanging fruit in affordable housing. If the families already have the land, and the land is the big cost of housing, families can afford to build a house if the land is family land and is free. So, you know.
What about leased land? I mean, again, I'm talking about, I keep thinking that there are so many situations where large landowners could create lease. Maybe you talked about a throwback to something that was before, but some kind of co-ownership with leased land where over time people would be able to buy that lease in time as value goes up, but make it comfortably affordable on the front end. You know, let's look at things in a different and unique way.
It's an interesting idea, and actually that's part of the model of Hawaiian homelands, which is probably one of our more successful ways of people actually being having affordable single-family houses. You know, I sit on the General Plan Advisory Committee, and we hear all these projects that are proposed that are affordable housing, but when you look in the fine print, you find the majority of them are multifamily. So they're either going to be condos or triplexes, or, you know, maybe not exactly the single-family dream that people have. And this may be a necessity to just conserve land, to go more
higher density.
Higher density, and then land around that people could have common gardens and common playgrounds for the kids and so forth and so on. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but the Hawaiian Homelands program, which is leased land, but people never get a chance to own it. It just remains in perpetuity in the public trust as leased land to be used generation after generation.
You know, we have lots of issues. We should jump around, but
yeah.
Aren't you, I'm just going to make a commentary here. You have so much to say because it's very clear that you've been involved. It's very clear that you are already doing. What I like about what you're talking about is the way I look at elections. Elections are like benchmarks. But someone like you, I'm using you as an example, are busy between elections.
Oh yeah.
Citizen
I don't go away
action.
in between elections.
That is the thing that I see that happens more than anything. A lot of the people that run come out to run, and if they're not elected, you don't really see them doing. You are doing. It would be a great asset to have someone that's doing now move to the next step, which would be to be on council. So I am beyond thrilled to know you're running, and I hope that we see the success in getting you in that seat. I mean, I can bring up other issues. You're not at a loss for an idea. What if I said vacation rentals?
Vacation rentals, the big theme of our time. Well, it's a complex issue. Vacation rentals have a lot of good to bring, and I think that we have independent travelers that They really don't want hotels. I'm an independent traveler. When I go to someplace, I want to stay at a nice little bed and breakfast someplace and have a real authentic experience. So I understand why vacation rentals are so popular. And they are a small business. And I totally support people having home-based businesses, whether it's, you know, renting out a room in their house to travelers when that opportunity presents itself, or having their sewing business, or having a, you know, a computer-based business or an internet-based business. I think the more people that can work from home, it helps on traffic, it saves on infrastructure, and allows people to have quality time with their family and really, you know, have a home life. So I'm all for that.
And I'm sure that the other issue, I'm just going to quick, is someone who has this place as an investment, they're nowhere around, and now their place is being rented out short-term to people, and they're not there sort of monitoring, because that's a different kind of a vacation rental.
That is a different
These
kind.
policies that are a blanket that don't take into consideration the difference of circumstance, that's where...
That's why I said it's complicated.
Yeah.
It's complicated because you don't have one kind of experience here. And some vacation rentals are, you know, a single room or a cottage. They're far less complex than when people have multiple rooms. We really need a zoning category for retreat centers. They're so needed as part of our emerging educational infrastructure.
Right.
You know, we really need to support the world teachers and leaders that want to come here and bring people with them, and also work with people that already live here. Every nonprofit organization needs a place to have their retreat and renew and look at their broad visions. And yet right now, there's a very long and complicated process to have a retreat center, and they're kind of like a stepchild. There's no real place for them. And so what we have is kind of vacation rentals being sort of jammed together to make retreat centers. And it really deserves its own category and its own place of respect in our community. So that's another aspect of it. This is what I mean, it's very complex. The community plans each have different views. Like the HANA community plan has a whole definition of vacation rental and how many you could have on a lot. And you know, it's all pretty laid out there. The Haiku community plan says we should set aside some places, and they should be places that the community agrees where they won't have impact on agriculture or won't have impact on this and impact on that. Because there are some impacts. Like for instance, you're a chicken farmer and someone opens a vacation rental next to you and they're complaining about your chickens, and then all of a sudden you have conflicts. So, you know, there are reasons why this has been hashed over and over again, and there's some people that are kind of silent about their concerns. They just have they have a concern that neighborhoods will become commercial centers rather than just neighborhoods, and that everything will be geared towards how the business is operated. And I guess it wouldn't matter to them whether it was a vacation rental or somebody that had like a, you know, an auto shop, and all of a sudden everything was about everybody's car being worked on all day and night. But things have to fit, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Things have to fit in the neighborhoods in which they're planned. And so I'm hoping that the council will go back and do a basic sort of process. I would love to see some way that the people who have been in good faith trying to get permits over the many years, because people have been told, oh yeah, just do this and we'll put you in the pipeline, and who have paid their taxes, who have tried to be upstanding in how they conducted their business, that they're not put in the same category as people who just see it as a business opportunity. It was the best thing to do, and maybe they paid taxes, maybe they didn't bother looking for any kind of permit. It's just like everybody was doing it, so why not me? That's a little different category, and maybe I'm offending some people by saying that, but
I don't think so.
I think there's some people who have really been operating in good faith.
Isn't she terrific? You see how thoughtful and considerate? I mean, I would think when you talk about people you might be offending, I think they would probably be really appreciating that you're open to listening to all kinds of sides.
Well, you'll find that everyone has a good reason for doing what they do, whether you agree with it or not. But I feel that the people who've been trying to work with the system should be granted some sort of interim relief and be allowed to operate. And, you know, The trouble is we have one law, and it's on the book, and the law right now says, and it's in our general plan. I came across it just the other day when I was reviewing our general plan. It says, you know, we shall confine, what's it called? Commercial visitor accommodations to areas that are zoned for resort use. That simple. So, you know,
So it's a blanket and it
that leaves
eliminates
out
a lot of
Hana,
those things.
that leaves out Haiku, that leaves out Makawao, that leaves out Wailuku, you know,
And
except,
yet we
except
know
if you have one little
it's
place in there.
decimated our economy in some of these areas. Like when I hear that a major windsurfing thing is going to other places because those people don't want to stay at the hotels on the other side.
Yeah.
All those
Yeah,
kind of things
yeah,
that have been affecting
yeah.
us.
Well, I think that, you know, the mayor was well-intentioned to try to look at the law and say, okay, there's a law, we should be following the law. Because we don't get any place by just ignoring the laws that we've set in place. However, some of the planning, this is a law that's a planning decision. And in my opinion, some of the planning decisions that we made 40 years ago, 20 years ago, 18 years ago, like the general plan is 18 years old,
Right.
they do need to be periodically revisited. But I would combine two things. I would combine the issue of vacation rentals and the issue of looking at places that are remote and very inviting to people, like McKenna, that have been set in concrete 40 years ago as being major resorts. It's like, that's not a good idea either. We need to revisit that, you know? And just like we need to revisit the idea that visitors are only going to stay on two places in the island, Wailea and Kanapali, and well, then expand a little bit to McKenna and Kapalua. I mean, it doesn't make a lot of planning sense. First of all, we're putting a lot of pressure at the end of cul-de-sacs, you know, at the end of narrow little roads. And secondly, if you just talk to our visitors and they're voting with their feet, a lot of them just want to be in a different place for a variety of reasons. So we
want you to
need
vote
to make
with
that
your feet
sensible.
and get out there and vote, I know. We are talking a long time, and I know we're going to run out of time here in just a few minutes probably.
Let's wrap it up.
Why don't I just give you a moment to talk directly to our viewers. If you have any specific subject you'd like to bring up, I'd like you to do that. And then just say goodbye here to them. But before I let you do that, I just really want to thank you for coming on here. Not everyone is brave enough to come on with me. Sometimes I'm perceived as someone who will ask a question that might be sensitive. You are a great guest in that you are open and available and taking everything and dealing with issues and have a lot to say. That is by itself, it's like you really are someone that can hit the ground running. So many times I watch new council people over these last years I've been here, and the first couple of years, we don't even know if they want to be reelected, but somehow once they're in, they get reelected, sometimes by inertia, because they're suddenly there, but they still don't know what they're doing.
Well,
you have been doing, and I would like to think that you could be a tremendously valuable addition to our council, and even in many ways that systems are run. I'm just been very happy to have known you over these years as besides being a wonderful person. Now tell them what you think. I just wanted to throw that in. I mean, not that the candidate that you're running against is anyone I have anything against. I just am a passionate, what's the word, supporter of you. I've seen how you've done, and I wish there could be 9 of you.
well, I appreciate your kind words, and I appreciate your support. And it takes support from a wide variety of people in order for a grassroots candidate who isn't endorsed by an incumbent and isn't endorsed by all of the power structure here and isn't funded by everybody to step forward and actually represent the people. And I am stepping forward because I care, you know, and that is the motivating factor here. I care about what happens to Maui's future. I care about what happens to the people. I care about seeing us build this bridge to a new economy And it's not going to be built by people who are doing the same old thing. Even if you recognize their names, you've got to trust that there are some folks like me who have been working behind the scenes for years and years and years to research, to come up with ideas, to listen to people, and to find practical ways to make things happen. So I would like to take this view that I have and allow it to work for you, the families of Maui County. I'd be happy to hear from you. I have a website, electlucy.org. You can find out a little bit more about me, who I am, where I came from. We didn't get into this here, but you know, basically I grew up in an immigrant family, and I am very, very humbly grateful that my grandparents, who came here with nothing, who were illiterate peasants from Italy and worked very hard to get ahead, were able to pass on their work ethic to my dad, who was the first to go to college, and it was passed on to me. And I have high hopes for my life and my adopted daughter, who's doing very, very well. And I want to take those same values and put them to work in our council. It's what we all want. We all want to see our families have a better life. It's why we're all here. And I'm prepared to go to work for you on day one. I'm not going to need on-the-job training. I've already worked at the county. I was an assistant to council member Michelle Anderson, who is retiring this year. And I'm very proud of the contribution I made to getting her office organized the first 6 months that she was there. I had to go back to my regular job, but I was very happy to get that on-the-job training, learning how the county systems work, you know, working within the building there. And it's a valuable insight that everyone should have if they're going to consider public service. So I'm caring, I'm prepared, and I am really, really energized and motivated to see the kind of ideas that we could bring into the new future for Maui. So I welcome your support. I have that funny name, LucienneDeNaie. My friends call me Lucy. I'll be on the ballot November 4th, East Maui Council seat, and everyone can vote for East Maui. Everyone can vote for every council seat. And thank you, Jason. This was a wonderful opportunity, and I hope the folks at home, if they have questions, will go to my website, electlucy.org, and you'll get answers.
You know what's also true? Sometimes we have these shows and they're little ones, half hour. I know that you've been watching the whole time because you've had a lot to say, and it hasn't just been fluff. I'm really thrilled to know there are people like you that have cared so much to bring us to where we are now and can help us toward an even greater future. Thank you so very much for joining me here.
Thank you.
And I wish you the very best. And I want you guys to know that between elections, I want to see all of you coming out and being supportive, because representatives that we have need to groom new people for the future and need to know that there's people in the community that care. It makes the work that much easier because it is work.
It is work. It's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work.
I've spent 3 years on the General Plan Advisory Committee, and we're dealing with all the same issues that the council is going to be dealing with. And it's a tremendous commitment. 25 people have made that commitment.
Wow.
So if you want someone who's been there and done that, vote November 4th.
So thank you all for joining us. And remember, no matter where you are in Maui County, if you want to vote for LucienneDeNaie, you can do it no matter where you live. Thank you all for joining us. We'll see you again. Aloha.
Aloha.
No matter where you go, no matter what you do, take that Maui style with you. Cause if you ain't Maui styling, you just living on an island. Maui styling, don't let me down. 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 There is sunshine in your heart. sister and brother.